The happy path. The most obvious path your user is expected to take through an interface. Now this is typically what you will first design, as it is where we all naturally go. This is likewise true for development. Building out the happy path is the path of least resistance. Designing the happy path, of course, is important, but it's just as important to design and anticipate all those other different paths the user might take. What happens if they don't use things as expected or as the happy path would define? In other words, what wrong things are they going to do? What is the unhappy path? What silly things are your users going to do? How will the interface respond in those scenarios? Defining how your interface behaves in as many circumstances that you can is about teaching. Teach your users how to use your application in the way that was intended by guiding them back. Otherwise, you will quickly lose them if they run into frustration after frustration when things don't appear to be working. Ultimately, designing for both the happy and unhappy paths is about guiding the user back to using the application as you intended it, so they enter the right data and click the right buttons. People will go astray and use the application in ways not intended. You want to get them back on track as quickly as possible. Understanding and designing for all the wrong ways a user might use your application is an iterative process. You should try your best to cover every nook and cranny from the onset, but you will most likely not catch everything. Actually, you definitely won't catch everything. As you learn more from your audience, most likely via your support channels, as they use your interface and make unexpected decisions, iterate and improve as much as you can. Ensure human-friendly error messages are in place and that they guide the user with what they can do to get back on track. Add tooltips and help guides where possible. Cover flows that you didn't initially consider. The Scottish Rabbi's site is fairly simple, so there is less room for users to go in all different directions. But the standard user flows are there with the login, forget password, etc. There's also the checkout flow, and I need to consider all the different paths the user might take from those flows and the messaging around it. Some examples. For the login page, I need to consider if a user enters in an invalid email or password and handle any errors appropriately. If a user forgets their password, I need to ensure that they have a way to reset it. I need to ensure that they have messaging that guides them through the process and gives them an error, say when their reset token has expired. For checkout, I need to ensure I cover when there is some issue with their payment, whether it's from an incorrect card or handling some error from the back end or from our payment provider. I'm only scratching the surface here, but you can begin to see how important it is to consider all the various routes a user could take with any particular interaction. Even in my own designs, I see I've already fallen short. There are some things I haven't designed yet, but should. What happens if for some reason the player isn't working? I need to give some sort of message. Some message that they can see and gives them a tip, like refresh the page, or worst case, they have to try again later. I'm sure there are other things I haven't thought of yet. Always be on your toes and figure out how people are using your interface as quickly as possible. This can be through support channels as mentioned, or even more directly with user testing, where you can get direct feedback on how people are using the interface. The sooner you can know, the sooner you can help solve those frustrating problems for people and get them back on track.